speaking of stress, just about stressed Tina out to the max.
Yep. I don't like gum noises. Anybody who knows me knows I specifically don't like gum noises or very loud mouth noises.
All right. Tina, have you ever been stressed?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Have you ever been stressed?
I have, even though some people claim I haven't. I have.
You can be very stressed, a stressed person. Just hide it really well or carry it well.
Poker face.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been stressed. I think it's undeniable. We've all been stressed. Have you ever stress ate?
Yes. Yes, I've stressed ate. I used to make a joke out of it that I was eating my feelings. And it was 100% true because that's sometimes how it felt, especially when you're really deep in a stressful moment or a stressful period or a stressful season of life. So yeah, I 100% can say that I have been in that situation.
You know what the good thing is?
You're
not the only one. You are not alone. I've been there, and everybody else that you know has been there. So that's why we're going to talk about stress eating, or stress in general, the root of all evil. Without it, boy, would we all be doing way better things.
Well, if there were no stress, you and I wouldn't be sitting here recording this podcast. There wouldn't be a gym probably because everybody would just be living happy-go-lucky, dancing around. There's no stress. We know what to do, so we just do it. We follow all the rules.
So I seen a post the other day, came up on my feed, and somebody out there asked, "Hey, does anybody else stress eat?" And boy, there was like 20 something comments about, everybody raising their hand. That's me. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, obviously we need to talk about it. We've never talked about this before.
Yeah. We haven't done a podcast, but with the, here at the gym, it's certainly a topic that comes up, and we know that it is something that, as Jeff said, plagues everyone. No one is immune to it 100% that I've ever met personally.
They're not.
We have the people who won't admit it potentially just because it feels, like a weakness or something. But the truth is, stress is part of our life and food is part of our life. And so when those two collide and the stress eating happens, it can, wreak havoc everywhere.
Yeah. And then, it just starts with the food, and then it just, it's a trickle down effect from there. The damage that we do, just goes on and on and on all the way down the line. So let's just get started with some personal experiences of stress eating, what we've done, and then maybe we'll go over how we've turned it around.
Okay. All right.
So you want me to kick this off?
I can kick it off. It's all good. I've got many years of experience of stress eating. And luckily I can laugh about it now because there was a time that I definitely couldn't laugh about it. And it was a very big struggle in my life. And so, getting to share with everyone today my experience with it, I hope that someone can take away some strategies that I use to help, get better control over it. Right. So, like I said, I would eat my feelings, just general life, day-to-day things would affect me. And for whatever reason, I decided that eating something would help. And I was not reaching for bananas or oranges or apples or too many vegetables. I was going straight into things that were definitely unhealthy for me and definitely no portion control. And one of the ways that I really could tell that it was stress was that nothing ever filled me up. It would just go to that point where I think that the food will help. I'm eating it. I am it's not satiating me. I can tell it's not real physical hunger. It's something else that I'm trying to fill a void. Perhaps, not sure exactly what it was, but it turned into this event that I would turn to automatically. Like, something has triggered me. I am going to eat something, and then it would just kind of spiral out of control from there.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You see the signals now. Did you see the signals then?
No.
Like you had no idea that it wasn't filling you up. Like these are things that you look back on and now you realize these were happening. But in the moment, you had no clue that you were even stress eating. Like let's just back like how many people are actually admitting that a lot of their choices are coming from stress? I would venture to say nobody's noticing it in real time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I am coming at it from a place of some evaluation and just some self-reflection on my past, and that, yes, at that time I didn't recognize those. So that's signals.
And I'm bringing that up or kind of interrupting you because hopefully we're going to connect with some people and let them, hopefully, now they're going to start to put these pieces together, start to connect the dots that you're talking about. Like, as you think about your food, start to think, am I ever filling up? Tina, for you weren't, or you could eat to a much more excessive space.
Correct. I could eat to the point where it didn't go from feeling hungry to full. It went from feeling hungry to trying to fill something that never got filled and then maybe feeling sick. And so for me, that was the pattern that I would experience. And then it was just, it didn't feel good. And unfortunately for me too, it wasn't, the occurrences when they happened were way more frequent than I would like to admit, but that was the truth. It was frequent and it happened often. And no, I did not stop, and I didn't have a strategy to stop and say, hold on, something else is happening here.
Yeah. And, and then I think that's everybody's issue. Like every one of those people that would have commented on that post, unless they have a way of, handling their stress, that is what they're doing. They are overindulging. They're doing it all the time. Like your patterns are probably like what you went through is no different than anybody else that's stress eating, but has no idea that that's what's actually happening.
Yes, I would agree with that for sure. And so that's just a little bit about the stress. And so, do you want me to share kind of some strategies that I use now, or do you?
Let's go. I'll tell a little bit about like whenever I realize I'm stress eating, and again in the moment I'm not 100% realizing what's happening, but I can reflect back and like, oh yeah, that was I ate there because I was a little bit stressed, or I just wanted to get my mind off of something else. So going to a restaurant to get away from my places. So, for me, like, stress eating would come from me needing, we've kind of talked, a newer concept of ours is needing third space. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I go through moments where I'm not getting a third space. I go from home to work to home to work, and I don't want to be in either of those places. So the easiest reason to not be in one of those two places is go get something to eat for lunch, go somewhere different. Mm-hmm. And that would allow me to get out of the two spaces I have and get me into a third space. And so that's when I was, making choices. But now I look back on it, it's like I'm eating at places I don't even like. I don't really care for the food that much. So it wasn't coming from any point other than you just wanted to get out of the two things. Your house, you just didn't feel like being there and didn't feel like being at the gym. Two places I love, but we need more than just two places in our lives. And that's when, I notice, like I said, go to restaurants, that I don't even like, make choices that I really don't want, mm-hmm. and don't make me feel any better.
Yeah. And would you say when it is a stress eating moment that, like I was talking about, like the choices aren't the ones that you would normally make just because your judgment is clouded by kind of whatever else is going on, like, Yeah,
I mean, it could be lots of things like, oh, this is the fastest, the easiest, this is on the way. I think I like it. And then I try, I'm like, nope, still don't like it. Like, man, one time I had it and it was good, but then the last mm-hmm. 15 have been terrible, but I only remember that one good one mm-hmm. for some reason. So yeah, like I said, the judgment and just all the things are, obviously clouded, but now I look back on it, it's like, yeah, those are, very obvious flags. So now we can get into some of the strategies of how we overcome that, and getting past those stressful situations. And first and foremost is actually recognizing what the hell's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for me, I can tell you, and I know a lot of people are dealing with this. You think you should just be able to stop. Like you should just be like, I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to willpower my way through this. No more. That's when we start using the sentences like, I'm never going to do this. I'm not going to do that anymore. And that is stressful. When I just said that, I was creating stress in my mind thinking about those types of sentences. And so the 100 times that I attempted to pull back on, obviously recognizing that something was off, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I just thought the easiest way was just cold turkey. I'm just going to stop. I'm never going to do it again. And that's not the answer.
No, that's living in jail.
Yeah, that's not going to be our strategy for you today, because that is impossible.
Yeah. And nobody ever lives by those words. I will never do it again. So now it's, learning why am I having something? When should I have it? How often do I want to have, whatever it is? Mm-hmm. And, start to pick up on the cues on, okay, what's going on that I want this so much more often than normal? And being able to understand it versus just saying, like you said, oh, the easy answer is I just stopped doing it, versus no, the real answer is, why am I doing this? Actually, let's take a look at it. Don't get mad at yourself, but can you ask yourself one simple question? Why did I do what I just did?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you get better at practicing that one, then you can shift ahead and say, why, before it actually happens. But again,
first we got to figure out why.
It's going to be a work in progress. And just getting, the awareness. I love it. Bringing the awareness around why it's happening.
So as a busy parent who's hustling all around, you're probably just telling yourself the story, I don't have time, so we just go grab food, and that's the convenient way. Versus, no, we made this stop because I'm too stressed to figure out how to make a meal at home that I actually want. And I do have time to make if I was in the right mind space to do it.
Yeah. And so that actually is one of the strategies that was my first strategy, because I want to make sure I go in the correct order here of what worked for me, just so I can share with you guys. But when I started working on nutrition, planning my nutrition was part of the steps that I was taking. And when I had planned meals, that helped me combat some of that boredom eating, or the eating where because again, sometimes like you might stop because you're like, I don't have anything at home to eat, so I have to go to this place. Right. And so again, I'm not suggesting that having your meals planned is going to fix all of your stress eating, but I will suggest that by at least having a plan in place for your general nutrition for the week, for what you're going to have, does help. You might be less likely to stop if you know that you already have something that you like and it's available to you.
But if you do have a plan in place and you don't follow through, it makes it much easier to ask yourself the question, why didn't I eat what I had planned at home? And now you can be honest with yourself.
Right.
There is you don't have the fallback. We don't have anything, so I just go out to eat or whatever. You don't have those fallback excuses. So now you can ask yourself, the real question is, why I have food at home? Why didn't I want to eat it today? And I would venture to say stress is going to become at the top of the list.
Right.
This other thing was going to make me feel better. So to say it, I think it would have a huge impact on solving your problem.
Yeah. I think it will, but I know that this emotional roller coaster can run deeper for people. And so, yes, planning I think is huge. So for me, planning was huge.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, because I can really nail it down to two things. And the second thing was addressing my mindset around it, which again, we're talking about the awareness and asking yourself, checking in with yourself on actual hunger versus something else going on. What do I really need right now? Is the food that I think that I might want to go eat to help deal with the stress, is that really the answer? And that's just another way to ask yourself that question. Why am I doing this? And addressing it that way. But again, when I say that, that's why I want to make sure I say the first thing I did was do some meal planning. And the second thing I did was I was able to look at the mindset part of it, because it didn't come in that, that was the order it went in for me.
Yeah. And it makes total sense. And, for me, again, it's never been like such a problem, but it's not what I want. And, especially as I've been looking forward to, we've been asking people to write about who you want to be in 2025. And, you mentioned showing up differently in certain areas. Like, you know what? That is an area I want to show up better is my nutrition. Like, while I think 70% of it's good, there's still 25, 30% that I'm like, you know what? That could be better. Doesn't, I physically, I don't notice it too much, but I notice it in the way I feel. Mm-hmm. And so showing up for, my workouts and everything properly fueled makes a difference for me. So, that's where I want to show up better. And then now I'm starting to ask my questions. Like, I'll go back to another example of like just eating out to get into third space is like, maybe I would run to Edwardsville because we need something for the gym. Did I need to go on a Tuesday afternoon? Nope.
I need 1 2x4.
Yeah. And I'm going to go to Edwardsville, but you know what? Well, since I'm over here, I'll stop at Crazy Bulls or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not terrible, but it's still not what I wanted.
Right.
But it kind of sounded good in the moment and became easy and, relieved the stress of me having to go home or just be here all the time. So now I'm asking myself, like, do you really need to go to Edwardsville today or whatever? Do you really need to go somewhere? Or is this you actually just trying to give yourself a reason to go grab something else to eat?
Yeah.
And I'm catching myself, more often than I ever realized now that I'm being mindful and conscious of what's happening. Like, oh no, why don't I just save that for like a time when I'm taking my kids to the ice rink and I'm legitimately going to Edwardsville for something else and then grab what I need. And then I don't even have to stop.
Yeah. Nope. That's a good point. I have definitely ran an errand before because I know that there's a certain place that I might like to stop on the way or before or after. So yeah, I mean, listen, there's hundreds of examples of how people have fallen into this, into these patterns, and, bringing some awareness to them is going to, be one of the, the first steps in making some changes to this. And I do think it's important to point out too that, changing a habit can be uncomfortable, right? And so when I tell you that those were things I struggled with 10 or 12 years ago, I'm still practicing the 2 things that I told you to manage that today, which is planning my meals and learning how to deal with stress more effectively. And my mindset around said stress eating. And I will be the first to admit that I am not perfect. And like Jeff said, like some of the examples we're using, like I'm sure that this is something he's done recently. Yeah. Even like right now with post-holiday eating, which is probably why that Facebook post went up. People are just, it's the beginning of the year. There's, we've had weather, we've had school, we've had, everyone's just like, we go through that end of the year high and then we go back and we ride into January and it's like, oh man, it's back to normal. And that is enough to trigger some stress. And if you're not prepared, then you could, definitely fall victim to saying that you are the victim of that stress. And then your way to combat is like, well, I just, insert excuse. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
Instead of really looking at it and addressing what could really be going on.
Yeah. And like you said, there's so many examples of this. Like, another one is just my kids being sick and home and daycare closed. And like, my gosh, will they just leave for consistently for a week so I can come home and eat my normal lunch and nobody be there? Like just all these things. It's like, but it's, I'm recognizing it. Like, hey, this is the new life that you live with having a 4 and 5-year-old. So make the adjustments. But now, like, let's look at some other things that could help people realize what's happening. So some cues or some things like if this is happening, there's a good chance that happened from stress, not because you wanted that or you chose it. Like, so my first example would be if you catch yourself eating at an uncharacteristic time, like all of a sudden at 3, you never eat at 3:30, but all of a sudden today at 3:30, you find yourself in the cabinet. Well, what the hell am I doing here at 3:30 in the afternoon? I'm never here at 3:30 in the afternoon. Well, I guarantee you there's a reason that you drifted over to the cabinet, or if you're stopping at a gas station or wherever it is, you're eating out of pattern, out of a characteristic time. out of time schedule. That would easily be the first one for me to be like, I'm just drifting here. Like, how did I get here? And because it's such a weird time, because I eat very regularly when I'm, on my bed.
Yeah, your normal routine, your consistent routine.
It is
that's
by
not
the minute
happening. Yeah, you're like, oh, it's time for breakfast. It's time for
it's
my
feeding
snack.
time.
Yeah, it's feeding time. Another one might just be too, if you are eating a meal and again, I'll go back to the one that I use. Like, it's just not filling you up. Like, you're thinking there's something else happening and you're just like, I need something else.
Yeah. So like if you ate a meal and an hour later, like, wow, I can't believe I just did that. How did that happen? Oh, I ate because I just never seemed full. Okay. Well, now, yep, there's probably some stress somewhere that you just kept going and didn't want to stop or couldn't stop or didn't feel a need to stop. Let's see. I had another one in my head. I just forgot it.
I don't know. You didn't tell me, so I can't remember for you.
Can't remember for me.
Can't remember for you.
Is it on one of these sheets of paper?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not those examples.
That's all right. I mean, it doesn't, ultimately, again, probably there's lots of examples. If we just, if everybody started writing down their own stuff, we would come up with hundreds of examples if people wanted to share them. Mm-hmm. So, it's not about that, but it's just identifying these triggers and now putting into practice.
Yep. Putting them into practice. The key takeaway for today, I really think, is just the awareness around the event when it's happening and knowing that it's okay that you're not just able to quit cold turkey, like that you're not just able to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. Giving yourself that grace to practice this and build it as a skill, a habit, build some discipline around it, and know that the goal is to reduce the amount of times that happens, right? Like,
yeah, I think we should actually just make that a whole separate conversation, how to actually change the habits that go with it. Because really, ultimately, you're not going to change anything until you come up with the awareness. So we could talk about it all day right now, but I don't think you're going to remember okay, let's figure out how do I address that this is even happening to me? And let's just cut it off there.
Yeah.
Because all the other stuff will be just noise, and we'll come back to it.
Okay. I like it.
All right. Perfect. So become aware of your stress today.
All right.